Okay, welcome. This is going to be the 11th and final presentation in this series, The Fundamentals of Sri Aurobindo's Philosophy in Savitri. Next month, maybe we'll start a different series on passages in Savitri, in which I'll elaborate on selected passages. So the title of this presentation is The Divine Mother. And in the presentation, we'll hear Sri Aurobindo's explanations and descriptions of the Divine Mother in both his prose writings and in Savitri. Regarding the character Savitri in the poem, Sri Aurobindo says, Savitri is represented in the poem as an incarnation of the Divine Mother. And when considering her attributes or actions described in Savitri, we should also keep in mind his explanation in the author's note at the start of the poem. Still, this is not a mere allegory. The characters are not personified qualities, but incarnations or emanations of living and conscious forces with whom we can enter into concrete touch, and they take human bodies in order to help man and show him the way from his mortal state to a divine consciousness and immortal life. Thus, we can surmise that Savitri represents the mother of the Sri Aurobindo ashram in her greater spiritual being. In his prose writings, which we'll draw from here, Sri Aurobindo described the various aspects and attributes of the Divine Mother in his book, The Mother, as well as her relation to the integral yoga and those practicing it. Again, regarding this book, a disciple asked, "Do you not refer to the mother, our mother of the ashram, in your book, The Mother?" His reply was a simple and straightforward yes. And in answer to a follow-up question, is she not the individual Divine Mother who has embodied the power of these two vaster ways of her existence, transcendent and universal? And he again answered yes. So in brief, the quotations we'll consider here pertain to the Divine Mother in her transcendent, universal, and individual aspects, and her relation to us and our world. So we begin with an explanation of who the Divine Mother is, as described in his book, The Mother. And the long passage I'll read starts near the beginning of chapter 6, but I'll break it into shorter segments. The one whom we adore as the Mother is the conscious force that dominates all existence. One and yet so many-sided that to follow her movement is impossible, even for the quickest mind and for the freest and most vast intelligence. The Mother is the consciousness and force of the Supreme, and far above all she creates. But something of her ways can be seen and felt through her embodiments, and the more seizable because more defined and limited temperament and action of the goddess forms in whom she consents to be manifest to her creatures. So here Sri Aurobindo gives us the Mother's fundamental identity. The Mother is the consciousness and force of the Supreme. And we can rephrase it to say that she is the Supreme in his dynamic creative aspect. Sri Aurobindo continues, there are three ways of being of the Mother of which you can become aware when you enter into touch of oneness with the conscious force that upholds us and the universe. transcendent, the original supreme Shakti. She stands above the worlds and links the creation to the ever unmanifest mystery of the Supreme. Universal, the cosmic Mahashakti, she creates all these beings and contains and enters, supports and conducts all these million processes and forces. Individual, she embodies the power of these two vaster ways of her existence, makes them living and near to us, and mediates between the human personality and the divine nature. So here, Sri Aurobindo identifies three basic aspects or poises of the Divine Mother: transcendent, universal, and individual. In her transcendent aspect, she links the unmanifest, transcendent supreme to the creation. In her universal aspect, she creates, contains, and enters and drives all the beings and forces and processes of the universe. Individual, she embodies in a living form these two vaster ways of her existence and makes them approachable to us, and mediates between the divine nature and human beings. Next, he'll elaborate on each of these three fundamental aspects, starting with the transcendent. The one original transcendent Shakti, the Mother, stands above all the worlds and bears in her eternal consciousness the supreme divine. Alone, she harbors the absolute power and the ineffable presence, containing or calling the truths that have to be manifested. She brings them down from the mystery in which they were hidden into the light of her infinite consciousness and gives them a form of force in her omnipotent power and her boundless life and a body in the universe. The Supreme is manifest in her forever as the everlasting Satchidananda, manifested through her in the worlds as the one and dual consciousness of Ishvara Shakti and the dual principle of Purusha Prakriti, embodied by her in the worlds and the planes and the gods and their energies, and figured because of her as all that is in the known worlds and in unknown others. All is her play with the Supreme. All is her manifestation of the mysteries of the eternal, the miracles of the infinite. All is she, for all are parcel and portion of the divine conscious force. Nothing can be here or elsewhere but what she decides and the Supreme sanctions. Nothing can take shape except what she, moved by the Supreme, perceives and forms after casting it into seed in her creating Ananda. So this passage is packed with essential points. One, the transcendent Divine Mother bears in her consciousness the Supreme Divine. Two, she carries the absolute power and presence of the Supreme. Three, she brings down from the unmanifest all that is to be manifested and gives it a force and a form. Four, the Supreme is manifest in her as Satchidananda. Five, the Supreme is manifest in her as the one and dual principle of Ishvara Shakti and the dual principle of Purusha Prakriti, and through them is embodied in all the worlds and planes of consciousness. This last point carries within it a lot of unexplained concepts and issues which cannot be fully unpacked here. We can briefly say that the Ishvara Shakti are manifestations of the Supreme Being and his conscious divine force, the Divine Mother, though they are united, each holding the other within itself. Purusha Prakriti derive from them and can be briefly described as the soul and nature, which is a fundamental duality upholding the manifestation. It is through these two dual principles that the divine is manifested in the worlds. Sri Aurobindo concisely ends with two key points by saying, all is she, and that nothing can be here which she decides and the supreme sanctions. These are crucial points that should reassure us that the Supreme Being and the Divine Mother are looking after all that transpires here on earth and in us. Sri Aurobindo continues, the Mahashakti, the Universal Mother, works out whatever is transmitted by her transcendent consciousness from the Supreme and enters into the worlds that she has made. Her presence fills and supports them with the divine spirit and the divine all-sustaining force and delight, without which they could not exist. That which we call nature or prakriti is only her most outward executive aspect. She marshals and arranges the harmony of her forces and processes, impels the operations of nature, and moves among them, secret or manifest, in all that can be seen or experienced or put into motion of life. Each of the worlds is nothing but one play of the Mahashakti, of that system of worlds or universe, who is there as the cosmic soul and personality of the transcendent Mother. Each is something that she has seen in her vision, gathered into her heart of beauty and power, and created in her Ananda. So this paragraph focuses on the Universal Mother, the cosmic Mahashakti. It indicates that she manifests in the worlds whatever comes down from the transcendent divine for manifestation. Her presence, her spirit and force and delight supports all that she manifests. Nature or prakriti is the outward action of the manifestation, which seems to us unconscious or semi-conscious, but the Mother in her divine consciousness drives these forces and moves among them secretly or openly. Each world is only one aspect, one play of her creative vision and action. And in simple terms, we can say that the Mother, with her infinite consciousness and force and bliss, pervades the entire universe that she has created. Continues. But there are many planes of her creation, many steps of the divine Shakti. At the summit of this manifestation of which we are a part, there are worlds of infinite existence, consciousness, force, and bliss, over which the Mother stands as the unveiled eternal power. All beings there live and move in an ineffable completeness and unalterable oneness, because she carries them safe in her arms forever. Nearer to us are the worlds of a perfect supramental creation, in which the Mother is the supramental Mahashakti, a power of divine, omniscient will and omnipotent power, omnipotent knowledge, always apparent in its unfailing works and spontaneously perfect in every process. There, all movements are the steps of the truth. There, all beings are souls and powers and bodies of the divine light. There, all experiences are seas and floods and waves of an intense and absolute ananda. But here, where we dwell, are the worlds of the ignorance, worlds of mind and life and body, separated in consciousness from their source, of which this earth is a significant center, and its evolution a crucial process. This too, with all its obscurity and struggle and imperfection, is upheld by the Universal Mother. This too is impelled and guided to its secret aim by the Mahashakti. So here Sri Aurobindo describes 7 levels of the manifestation, each consisting of numerous worlds. At the summit are divine worlds in the levels of Sat, Chit, and Ananda, in which, respectively, infinite existence, consciousness force, and bliss are the predominant powers. Next are the divine worlds of the supermind, in which knowledge and will are the primary powers. Next are the worlds of ignorance, of mind, life, and matter, separated in consciousness from their divine source. And of these worlds, the earth, with its evolution, is a significant center. All the worlds on all the planes, even earth on the material plane, in its ignorance, is guided and driven by the Universal Mother towards its secret aims. Continues, the Mother as the Mahashakti of this triple world of the ignorance stands in an intermediate plane between the supramental light, the truth life, the truth creation, which has to be brought down here, and this mounting and descending hierarchy of planes of consciousness that like a double ladder lapse into the nescience of matter and climb back again through the flowering of life and soul and mind into the infinity of the Spirit. Determining all that shall be in this universe and in the terrestrial evolution by what she sees and feels and pours from her, she stands there above the gods, and all her powers and personalities are put out in front of her for the action, and she sends down emanations of them into these lower worlds to intervene, to govern, to battle and conquer, to lead and turn their cycles, to direct the total and individual lines of their forces. These emanations are the many divine forms and personalities in which men have worshipped her under different names throughout the ages. But she also prepares and shapes through these powers and their emanations the minds and bodies of her vibhutis, even as she prepares and shapes minds and bodies for the vibhutis of the Ishvara, that she may manifest in the physical world and in the disguise of human consciousness some ray of her power and quality and presence. All the scenes of the earth play have been like a drama, arranged and planned and staged by her, with the cosmic gods at for her assistance and herself as a veiled actor. So here Sri Aurobindo describes the relation of the mother to our world, this triple world of the ignorance. It's a triple world because it consists of matter, life, and mind, the three lower principles of existence separated in consciousness from their divine source. She stands in a plane between the supramental plane and our world, and has to bring down from the supramental light and truth from above into our world. She has to bring down the supramental light and truth from above into our world. In that intermediate plane, presumably the overmind plane, she stands above the gods which dwell in the overmind, and all her powers and personalities are put out in front of her to direct and assist the evolutionary process of the flowering of life and soul and mind into the infinity of the spirit. For this work, she sends emanations of these gods and her divine powers and personalities into our world and the other worlds of the ignorance. She also prepares the bodies of her vibhutis and the vibhutis of the Ishvara, the Lord, who embody on earth some of their power and presence in the world in the disguise of human beings. From this overmind plane, she has planned and arranged the drama of our world with the help of the gods and her powers and personalities. Sri Aurobindo continues, the mother not only governs all from above, but she descends into this lesser triple universe. Impersonally, all things here, even the movements of the ignorance, are herself in veiled power, and her creations in diminished substance, her nature body and nature force, and they exist because, moved by the mysterious fiat of the Supreme to work out something that was there in the possibilities of the infinite, she has consented to the great sacrifice and has put on like a mask the soul and forms of the ignorance. But personally, too, she has stooped to descend here into the darkness that she may lead it to the light, into the falsehood and error, that she may convert it to the truth, into this death, that she may turn it to godlike life, into this world pain and its obstinate sorrow and suffering, that she may end it in the transforming ecstasy of her sublime Ananda. In her deep and great love for her children, she has consented to put on herself the cloak of this obscurity, condescended to bear the attacks and torturing influences of the powers of darkness and the falsehood, born to pass through the portals of birth, that is a death, taken upon herself the pangs and sorrows and sufferings of the creation, since it seemed that thus alone could it be lifted to the light and joy and truth and eternal life. This is the great sacrifice, called sometimes the sacrifice of the Purusha, but much more deeply, the Holocaust of Prakriti, the sacrifice of the Divine Mother. Here, Sri Aurobindo affirms that even the movements and forms of the ignorant world are the Mother herself in veiled power and substance. All exists here to work out some possibilities of the infinite which have been willed by the Supreme. And in her individual form also, the Mother has consented to descend into this ignorant world, to take a human body, to endure its darkness and suffering, to bear and defeat the anti-divine forces, so that she may lead the world to light and transform its falsehood and error into truth, and heal its sorrow and suffering, and change it into the ecstasy of Ananda. So we turn now to see how the Divine Mother is described in Sri Aurobindo's poem Savitri. Well, I've already said that the character Savitri represents an incarnation of the Divine Mother. So much of the poem's action depicts her actions and her interactions with others, but here we'll focus more on her greater and higher being above the world, and guiding and leading it to the divine light and truth. It describes King Aswapati's vision and experience of the Mother in the heights of the overmind consciousness, and his prayer to her to descend into the world and take a human form that she may transform the life of earth. The passage begins on page 295. There he beheld, in their mighty union's poise, the figure of the deathless two in one, a single being in two bodies clasped, a diarchy of two united souls, seated, absorbed in deep creative joy. Their trance of bliss sustained the mobile world. Behind them, in a morning dusk, one stood, who brought them forth from the unknowable. Ever disguised, she awaits the seeking spirit, watcher on the supreme unreachable peaks, guide of the traveler of the unseen paths. She guards the austere approach to the alone. At the beginning of each far-spread plain, pervading with her power the cosmic suns, she reigns, inspirer of its multiple works, and thinker of the symbol of its scene. Above them all she stands, supporting all. The sole omnipotent goddess ever veiled, of whom the world is the inscrutable mask. The ages are the footfalls of her tread, their happenings the figure of her thoughts, and all creation is her endless act. So similar to what was described earlier in the quote from the Mother, Sri Aurobindo seems to refer to the transcendent Shakti, which he describes as in the Mother as the absolute power and the ineffable presence containing or calling the truths that have to be manifested, and as the one and dual consciousness of Ishvara Shakti, the manifestation of the Supreme as the Lord and Master and as the Divine Mother. In the last 4 lines, he describes her universal aspect, the Mahashakti, in which all creation is her endless act. And the passage continues, his spirit was made a vessel of her force. Mute in the fathomless passion of his will, he outstretched to her his folded hands of prayer. Then in a sovereign answer to his heart, a gesture came as of worlds thrown away, and from her raiments lustrous mystery raised, one arm half parted the eternal veil. A light appeared still and imperishable, attracted to the large and luminous depths of the ravishing enigma of her eyes. He saw the mystic outline of a face, overwhelmed by her implacable light and bliss, an atom of her illimitable self, mastered by the honey and lightning of her power, tossed towards the shores of her ocean ecstasy, drunk with a deep golden spiritual wine. He cast from the rent stillness of his soul a cry of adoration and desire, and the surrender of his boundless mind, and the self-giving of his silent heart. He fell down at her feet, unconscious, prone. Here we see Aswapati's surrender to the Divine Mother, to the transcendent Shakti, whose one arm half parted the eternal veil, by which he sees the ravishing enigma of her eyes and the mystic outline of a face. He's overwhelmed by her implacable light and bliss, and mastered by the honey and lightning of her power, and tossed towards the shores of her ocean ecstasy. After falling at her feet, unconscious, Aswapati awakes and continues his inner journey and moves into the heights of the overmind consciousness, and then into the transcendent, unknowable, above the universe, which is described as a silent cause, occult, impenetrable, infinite, eternal, unthinkable, alone. And then in the next passage I'll read, Aswapati again encounters the Divine Mother in that supreme transcendence. It begins on page 312. Even while he stood on being's naked edge, and all the passion and seeking of his soul faced their extinction in some featureless vast, the presence he yearned for suddenly drew close. Across the silence of the ultimate calm, out of a marvelous transcendence core, a body of wonder and translucency, as if a sweet mystic summary of herself, escaping into the original bliss, had come enlarged out of eternity. Someone came, infinite and absolute, a being of wisdom, power, and delight. Even as a mother draws her child to her arms, took to her breast nature and world and soul, abolishing the signless emptiness, breaking the vacancy and voiceless hush, piercing the limitless unknowable. Into the liberty of the motionless depths, a beautiful and felicitous luster stole. Here is another description of the transcendent Shakti, for she emerges out of a marvelous transcendence core, breaking the vacancy and voiceless hush, piercing the limitless unknowable. She's described as a being of wisdom, power, and delight, with a body of wonder and translucency. And he continues, the power, the light, the bliss, no word can speak, imaged itself in a surprising beam and built a golden passage to his heart, touching through him all longing sentient things. A moment's sweetness of the all-beautiful canceled the vanity of the cosmic whirl. A nature throbbing with a heart divine was felt in the unconscious universe. It made the breath a happy mystery, a love that bore the cross of pain with joy, eudaemonized the sorrow of the world, made happy the weight of long unending time, the secret caught of God's felicity. Affirming in life a hidden ecstasy, it held the spirit to its miraculous course, carrying immortal values to the hours. It justified the labor of the suns. For one was there supreme behind the God. Here we see the effect of the Divine Mother on the world. She canceled the vanity of the cosmic whirl. In other words, gave a meaning and justification for the material universe, that it is not just a mechanical action of nature with no sense or direction or aim, full of conflict and violence and pain and suffering. She eudaemonized the sorrow of the world, which means she changed it to happiness. Her descent affirmed the victory of joy, happiness, sweetness, beauty, and love in the world, and assured its divine fulfillment. Continues, a mother might brooded upon the world. A consciousness revealed its marvelous front, transcending all that is, denying none, imperishable above our fallen heads. He felt a rapturous and unstumbling force. The undying truth appeared, the enduring power of all that here is made and then destroyed. The mother of all Godheads and all strengths, who, mediatrix, binds earth to the supreme. The enigma ceased that rules our nature's night. The covering nescience was unmasked and slain. Its mind of error was stripped off from things, and the dull moods of its perverting will. Illumined by her all-seeing identity, knowledge and ignorance could strive no more. No longer could the Titan opposites, antagonist poles of the world's artifice, impose the illusion of their twofold screen, throwing their figures between us and her. The wisdom was near, disguised by its own works, of which the darkened universe is the robe. Now here the mother is described as the mediatrix who binds earth to the supreme. A mediatrix is a female mediator, one who brings together two different parties. She is also described as a rapturous and unstumbling force and the mother of all Godheads and all strengths. She tears off the covering nescience, the unconsciousness of things, its mind of error, and the dull moods of its perverting will. They were illumined by her all-seeing identity, by her conscious oneness with all. No longer could the Titan opposites, antagonist poles of the world's artifice, impose the illusion of their twofold screen. That is, this world seems to have two opposite poles, the inconscient at its material base and the superconscience of the spirit, which cannot be reconciled. One can immerse oneself in the spirit and leave the world of matter, or one can immerse oneself in the material life, renouncing the spirit. But the mother's consciousness and force, identified with all, reconciles this fundamental duality. The ignorant world becomes the robe or garment of the divine wisdom. No more existence seemed an aimless fall. Extinction was no more the sole release. The hidden word was found, the long-sought clue. Revealed was the meaning of our spirit's birth, condemned to an imperfect body and mind, in the inconscience of material things, and the indignity of mortal life. A heart was felt in the spaces wide and bare. A burning love from white spiritual founts annulled the sorrow of the ignorant depths. Suffering was lost in her immortal smile. A life from beyond grew conqueror here of death. To err no more was natural to mind. Wrong could not come where all was light and love. The formless and the formed were joined in her. Immensity was exceeded by a look. A face revealed the crowded infinite. Incarnating inexpressibly in her limbs, the boundless joy the blind world forces seek, her body of beauty moon the seas of bliss. This passage elaborates on the same points made above. No more existence seemed an aimless fall, a meaningless fall from the spirit, from which extinction seemed to be the only release, the only way out. The spiritual adepts of the past aimed for an extinction of their consciousness and life in the world with its inevitable suffering. That was the meaning of nirvana. Or they aimed at immersion in the passive Brahman consciousness, the pure spirit, leaving behind the illusory material life and world in which they somehow had strayed. But the Divine Mother reconciled spirit with the material world, transformed the world's ignorance and sorrow and death with her infinite power and light, love, and delight. Passage continues. At the head she stands of birth and toil and fate. In their slow round, the cycles turn to her call. Alone her hands can change time's dragon base. Hers is the mystery the night conceals. The spirit's alchemist energy is hers. She is the golden bridge, the wonderful fire. The luminous heart of the unknown is she. The power of silence in the depths of God. She is the force, the inevitable word, the magnet of our difficult ascent, the sun from which we kindle all our suns, the light that leans from the unrealized vast, the joy that beckons from the impossible, the might of all that never yet came down. All nature dumbly calls to her alone, to heal with her feet the aching throb of life and break the seals on the dim soul of man and kindle her fire in the closed heart of things. This part of the passage emphasizes that the Mother alone can transform this world, that she is the force, light, love, and delight of the Supreme. It is she who draws us upward in the evolution towards God, and it is she who can deliver the world from its unconsciousness and suffering. Time's dragon base is the inconscience at the base of the material existence, a complete absence of self-awareness, though it holds within itself, unknown to itself, the divine consciousness. This is the mystery the night conceals. And this is why the universe, and with its material nature, evolves and proceeds in an automatic yet inevitably sure process towards a divine awakening. All here shall be one day her sweetness home. All contraries prepare her harmony. Towards her our knowledge climbs, our passion gropes. In her miraculous rapture we shall dwell. Her clasp shall turn to ecstasy our pain. Our self shall be one self with all through her. In her confirmed, because transformed in her, our life shall find in its fulfilled response above the boundless hushed beatitudes, below the wonder of the embrace divine. This known as in a thunder flash of God, the rapture of things eternal filled his limbs. Amazement fell upon his ravished sense. His spirit was caught in her intolerant flame. Once seen, his heart acknowledged only her. Only a hunger of infinite bliss was left. All aims in her were lost, then found in her. His base was gathered to one pointing spire. This is a vision and prophetic announcement of the Mother's transformation of the earth. We see again how she unites the divine consciousness with the lower ignorant creation, and in that unity, the lower is transformed into its divine values and finds its fulfillment. Our pain, our groping passion, our ignorance seeking knowledge will all be changed into their divine counterparts. Once Aswapati has this vision, he single-pointedly turns to the Mother and aspires for this transformation. The next passage relates the climax of King Aswapati's prayer to the Divine Mother to descend onto the earth to effect this transformation. It begins on page 345. O truth defended in thy secret Son, voice of her mighty musings in shut heavens, on things withdrawn within her luminous depths. O wisdom's splendor, Mother of the universe, Creatrix, the Eternal's artist bride, linger not long with thy transmuting hand, pressed vainly on one golden bar of time, as if time dare not open its heart to God. O radiant fountain of the world's delight, world free and unattainable above, O bliss, who ever dwellest deep hid within, while men seek thee outside and never find. Mystery and muse with hieratic tongue, incarnate the white passion of thy force. Mission to earth some living form of thee. One moment fill with thy eternity. Let thy infinity in one body live. All knowledge wrap one mind in seas of light. All love throb single in one human heart. Immortal, treading the earth with mortal feet, all heaven's beauty crowd in earthly limbs. Omnipotence, girdle with the power of God, movements and moments of a mortal will. Pack with the eternal might one human hour, and with one gesture change all future time. Let a great word be spoken from the heights, and one great act unlock the doors of fate. Note how the Mother is addressed here at the beginning as the truth defended in thy secret Son, voice of her mighty musings in shut heavens, on things withdrawn in her luminous depths. This emphasizes her transcendent aspect, high above all she creates, beyond the reach of mankind. But Aswapati implores her to descend soon, not to wait to transform the earth. And then he prays to her to manifest herself on earth, that her infinity, her eternity, her all knowledge, her all love, her beauty, and eternal might will manifest in one human body, and one great act unlock the doors of fate. And this last line reminds us of the mother's experience on February 29th, 1956, in which she saw herself in a vision, in a form of living gold, bigger than the universe, take a mighty golden hammer and break open a massive golden door that was separating the world from the divine, such that the supramental light and force and consciousness poured down upon the world. Passage continues. His prayer sank down in the resisting night, oppressed by the thousand forces that deny, as if too weak to climb to the supreme. But there arose a wide, consenting voice. The spirit of beauty was revealed in sound. Light floated round the marvelous vision's brow, and on her lips the immortal's joy took shape. O strong forerunner, I have heard thy cry. One shall descend and break the iron law, change nature's doom by the lone spirit's power. A limitless mind that can contain the world, a sweet and violent heart of ardent calms, moved by the passions of the gods shall come. All mights and greatnesses shall join in her. Beauty shall walk celestial on the earth. Delight shall sleep in the cloud net of her hair, and in her body, as on his homing tree, immortal love shall beat his glorious wings. A music of griefless things shall weave her charm. The harps of the perfect shall attune her voice. The streams of heaven shall murmur in her laugh. Her lips shall be the honeycombs of God. Her limbs, his golden jars of ecstasy. Her breasts, the rapture flowers of paradise. She shall bear wisdom in her voiceless bosom. Strength shall be with her like a conqueror's sword, and from her eyes the eternal's bliss shall gaze. A seed shall be sown in death's tremendous hour, a branch of heaven transplant to human soil. Nature shall overleap her mortal step. Fate shall be changed by an unchanging will. In the climactic reply of the Divine Mother to Aswapati's prayer, she consents to descend onto earth to change nature's doom by the lone spirit's power. As long as nature remains unchanged, all its creatures are doomed to pain, suffering, and death. This is why the transformation requires the Divine Mother's consent. Only she can change nature itself. Only she can change time's dragon base. She agrees to descend into a human being and declares that all mights and greatnesses shall join in her. This being, who later in the poem takes birth as Aswapati's daughter, Savitri, will embody all the divine qualities of beauty, delight, love, wisdom, and divine will. With the Divine Mother's incarnation in Savitri, a seed shall be sown in death's tremendous hour, and fate shall be changed by an unchanging will. Of course, this also applies to the mother of the Sri Aurobindo ashram. So, thank you.